as the BBC chairman Richard Sharp has become under even more pressure to resign over facilitating a loan for Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has made a big U-turn and has decided to throw Richard Sharp under a bus. Oh yes, it's time to expose the Rashid Sunak of the United Kingdom and the British government. We know that there has been a lot of problems with this whole story. Just a quick summary. Obviously, we have Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, who has came out recently, a while ago, when the whole story broke about Richard Sharp, BBC chairman, his friendship with Boris Johnson, and helping him get a loan from another friend. Rashid Sunak supported the BBC chairman. He just said, yeah, it's fine. I have so much confidence in him. And when a politician says, I have confidence in someone, that means that person is going to go away. We know that. So that's just Westminster language for, I'm going to get rid of you. But Richard Sharp has remained in his position in terms of saying, well, I was just friends with Boris, and I introduced him to someone else. And as I was getting the job as BBC chairman, they happened to help Boris Johnson with a loan. So he said, I didn't do it myself. I just introduced him to someone else. He happened to be at the same time when I applied for the BBC chairmanship job. So that's still going on, that saga, because he hasn't resigned yet. He's going to have to eventually. But Rishi had confidence. Now he's come out to say something different. So Rishi has come out to say, firstly, in his defense, that he was not Prime Minister when Richard Sharp was offered the BBC role. So it's not my responsibility. He says, blame Boris. That's basically Rishi saying, blame Boris Johnson for this whole mess. Okay. And he was Chancellor at the time anyway. But now he's come out to say this, which is even more interesting. He said that, well, you don't even know anything about these two. We've discovered something very, very fascinating. Rishi knows Richard Sharp. Rishi Sunak used to work for Richard Sharp at Goldman Sachs, and they are long-standing allies and friends. Rishi Sunak brought Richard Sharp into the government, into the Treasury, as an advisor shortly after he became Chancellor. So, not only he used to work for the guy, they're close friends, and they're also allies, and they work with he brought him into government. So now Rishi Sunak wants us to believe he has no idea about anything. He doesn't know anything about the conversations that Prime Minister had with Richard Sharp when he was applying to become BBC chairman. Somehow Rishi doesn't know anything. I don't know these people. What was it? I want to say Richard Sharp. Is that his name? Yeah. Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Sharp. Absolutely chaotic. So if he's not careful, this whole thing could actually backfire on Rishi himself. He shouldn't have done this. He should have remained professional from the beginning. Say, well, obviously I know him and I have respect for him, but we need to look into it and there has to be a proper investigation. Just say that. It would have been fine. But the more this escalates, the more it's not just going to damage the BBC's reputation, which I'm fine with. It's also going to damage his own idiotic cabinet and Downing Street, which is not good for the stability of the country, by the way, because we're not even that close to the election. If it gets close to the election, I don't really care if it's going to bring down his cabinet, because it's about time, I guess. But it's not good for British democracy to have all these scandals, creating new scandals of tiny scandals. Everything is like a snowball at this point in British society. So we have other news updates for you guys as well, by the way. We're going to be talking about Humza Yousaf, who's decided to make a U-turn on his biggest, not necessarily a pledge, but biggest line that he said during the SNP leadership election. We're going to talk about this now, as well as the Commonwealth Day. By the way, happy Commonwealth Day, in case you didn't watch the previous videos. And we're going to be talking about how an irrational Labour member decided to attack me on Twitter for being British. Yeah. Anyway, subscribe to the channel. I'm Mahyar, Tousi, and we are the media.